your personality, which means you better start thinking about what you've been thinking about and changing it. You begin to become conscious of your unconscious actions or habits or behaviors and modify them. And then we have to begin to look at the emotions that we live by every single day that are keep us connected to the past and decide, do these emotions belong in our future? So
Come on in, let's talk about it. Come on in, let's talk about it. Make it make sense.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something I think a lot of us grapple with. How to actually break free from those negative patterns. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. The stuff that just keeps us feeling stuck.
Yeah, it's a big word.
And looking through the sources you shared, our listeners are clearly looking for practical ways to make real changes, right? Without it feeling like this huge, overwhelming task.
Exactly.
So our mission here is to kind of pull out the core insights, make it all feel a bit more manageable.
Right, and what's really interesting is this central idea that keeps popping up. Our thoughts and feelings, the everyday ones, are not just happening to us, they're actively shaping our reality.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it like a loop. Your thoughts, they lead to certain choices.
Makes sense.
Those choices. They drive your behaviors, then the behaviors create your experiences.
Ah, okay.
And those experiences, they generate emotions, which then loop right back around and reinforce the original thoughts.
Wow, so it's a self-feeding cycle.
Totally.
Yeah.
And understanding that cycle is like the first key to actually stepping outside of it.
Got it. So if you're stuck in that kind of loop, the real shift isn't just tweaking behavior, it's deeper, like changing your personality.
That's what the material suggests, yeah. It starts with becoming conscious, really aware of the thoughts and emotions that are usually running the show, unconsciously.
Beneath the surface.
Exactly. One source mentioned we have tens of thousands of thoughts a day.
That's a lot.
Right. And apparently something like 90% of them are the same thoughts as yesterday.
90%, wow. No wonder it's hard to change.
Well, yeah. If you're running the same mental script, you're likely making the same choices, doing the same things.
Getting the same results, feeling the same way. Predictable.
Exactly. It's this really tight loop. So if you want to break free, you've got to start at the source, right? The thoughts.
And it's not just the surface thoughts, is it? There's that neurological angle, too. Nerve cells that fire together, wire together. What's that about?
Yeah, neuroplasticity. Basically, when you think or feel something repeatedly, the brain cells involved fire together.
Okay.
And the more they fire together, the stronger that connection becomes, like carving a path in your brain.
A mental highway.
Sort of. And over time, these strong pathways become our default ways of thinking and feeling. They really shape our identity, especially, the sources say, by our mid-30s or so.
So that's how we form the habit of being ourselves.
That's the idea, yeah. These become our ingrained programs.
And we spend most of our time running on these programs.
The figure mentioned is around 95% of our day on autopilot.
95%? That's huge.
It is. So the real leverage point is becoming disentangled, I think one source called it.
Disentangled.
Yeah, stepping back from those automatic programs. And you do that by consciously observing what's going on inside, your thoughts, feelings, even body sensations. Just notice it.
Just noticing. Sounds simple, but I bet it's not easy to step off that well-worn path. Why is it so hard? The sources talk about discomfort.
They do, big time. Change means stepping into the unknown. And that brings up uncertainty, discomfort. It's unsettling for most people.
Yeah, naturally.
And here's the really fascinating bit. Apparently, people often prefer the predictability of familiar negative feelings like guilt or worry over the unease of stepping into something new.
So better the devil you know kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even if the devil is feeling bad.
Pretty much. It's like those feelings become this weird, uncomfortable security blanket. You know what to expect.
That really hits home, like an addiction to our own familiar misery. And our past experiences fuel this, don't they?
Wow.
Especially the emotional ones.
Oh, definitely. When something happens that triggers a strong emotion, it creates this snapshot in your memory.
A snapshot.
Yeah, but it's not just the facts. It's loaded with the emotion you felt then. And that emotional residue, that's the anchor. It keeps pulling you back to the past.
So it's not enough to just understand what happened.
Nope. The material is clear. You have to work through and overcome the emotion tied to the memory to really move on. If that feeling lingers, it'll keep coloring your present.
And it's not just in our heads, right?
Yeah.
The body gets involved too.
Oh, absolutely. Crucial point. The body gets conditioned. It learns the familiar past. It can even get hardwired into expecting a certain future based on routine actions and the feelings tied to them.
Like if you always feel stressed getting ready for work.
Exactly. Your body learns that stressed state. It anticipates it.
Okay.
So then the present moment, which is actually where all the possibility lies, feels weird, maybe even threatening.
Because it's not the familiar stress.
Right. So you subconsciously retreat back to the known, even if it's unpleasant. One source puts it starkly. The habit is when the body becomes the mind.
Well, the body becomes the mind. Okay, so if we're that deeply programmed, body and mind, how do we start to shift things? That conscious observation idea seems key. What does that actually look like day to day?
Well, the act of observing itself creates separation. When you notice a thought, oh, there's that worry again, you're not just being the worry anymore.
You're the one seeing the worry.
Exactly. You step into the observer role, like watching a movie instead of being lost in it. Meditation is mentioned as a way to practice this, to get familiar with your internal landscape.
Being familiar with yourself.
Yeah. The more you notice your thoughts, your words, your actions, your feelings, the less unconscious you are throughout the day. It just naturally starts to happen.
Okay, bringing the automatic into awareness.
Yeah.
But just one aha moment isn't enough, is it?
Yeah.
The sources warn against that.
Right. A great meditation or a flash of insight is awesome, but it's not the whole game. The real work is in sustaining that new state of mind, that new energy throughout your day.
Consistency.
That's the key, building that momentum. And when you do consistently hold a different energy, well, the material suggests interesting things start happening.
Like what?
Like noticing more synchronicities or meaningful coincidences.
Ah, those moments where things just line up.
Exactly. They're described as little signs, like breadcrumbs, showing you're on a new path, that your new energy is having an effect.
And this isn't just magical thinking. There's some science here, too.
Well, yeah. The sources bring up a study, I think it was Bonn University. They used brain scans.
Okay.
And they found pretty quick, significant positive changes in brain and heart coherence in people actively doing these practices.
Brain and heart coherence. What's that?
It's basically when your brain waves and heart rhythms become more synchronized, more orderly. It's linked to feeling calmer, more focused, better overall.
So measurable changes.
Measurable changes.
Yeah.
It suggests there's almost a formula, you know? If you apply these principles consistently, your internal state actually shifts in ways we can see.
So it's not just about stopping the old patterns, but actively creating something new. Having a vision for the future seems really important in the sources.
It's crucial. If you don't have a compelling vision pulling you forward, where do you go?
Back to the past, I guess?
Exactly. Back to the familiar memories, the default settings. Your life stays predictable. To cross that metaphorical river of change from the old self to the new, it can feel like a kind of death, actually.
A death of the old self.
Yeah, neurologically, biologically, letting go of those old circuits. But having that clear, inspiring vision of what's on the other side, that's the fuel to get you across.
And the good news is, it's never too late for this. Regardless of age,
Yeah.
health, past, anything.
That message comes through really strongly. It's never too late. Doesn't matter how old you are, what you've been through, even if you've never meditated before. Those limiting beliefs, I'm too set in my ways, my health won't let me.
Yeah, we all have those.
The sources directly challenge them. Some of the biggest changes happen in people who are brand new to this, apparently. It's more about the willingness, the commitment to actually do the work.
Just showing up for it.
Right. Committing fully.
Okay, now there's this other idea, maybe a bit more out there. The idea that our focus on the material world, just what we can sense, is a kind of delusion.
Yeah, that's a provocative concept. The idea is we've been sort of hypnotized, conditioned into believing reality is only what our five senses tell us.
And that's limited.
Very limited, according to this view. So the big question becomes, can you believe in a future you can't see or touch yet? Can you think about it, feel it, focus on it so intensely that your brain literally starts changing as if it's already happened?
Before there's any physical evidence.
Exactly. And that ties right back into neuroplasticity. The brain can change based on focus, thought, emotion. The research supports that now.
And it's not just thinking about it, right? The feeling part is essential.
Absolutely essential. You have to emotionally connect with that future. Feel it daily, to the point where your body, the unconscious mind, actually starts to believe it's happening now.
So the body doesn't know the difference between a real experience and when you're intensely imagining and feeling.
That's the premise. And when you get the body on board like that, it can trigger epigenetic changes,
Yeah.
sending new signals to your genes, literally changing you physically to match that future.
Wow. So you're not chasing the future anymore.
Exactly. You become like a magnet, a vortex for it. You embody the feeling, and that draws the experience to you.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. But what about when you're doing this, feeling it, and nothing seems to happen? Impatience must be a killer.
Oh, it's a huge trap. Constantly analyzing, why isn't it here yet? Am I doing it wrong? That's falling right back into relying only on your senses.
Stuck in the old reality.
Yep. The key is staying connected to the feeling of that future, that energy, even when your senses aren't showing you proof yet. It takes practice, like any skill. Starts off clunky, gets smoother.
And ideally, it feels good.
Ideally, yeah. The goal isn't grim determination. It's meant to become blissful, playful, ecstatic, loose, free. That's the vibe of creation.
Okay, so we need to rethink the unknown too then. It's not just scary empty space.
Definitely not. The sources frame the unknown as the place where the new future exists. It's outside the limits of your known past experiences.
So the discomfort we feel when things are uncertain.
That's often the body trying to pull you back. Back to the familiar, the predictable. Anxiety, frustration pops up.
That's the critical moment.
That's a huge moment. Catching yourself right then, consciously choosing not to go down that old road, practicing self-regulation instead.
Yeah.
That's a victory every single time.
So it's less about the external outcome sometimes and more about who you're becoming internally.
That's a really profound point in the material.
Yeah.
Yes. The wealth, the health, the relationship, those are great, but the real gold is who you become in the process. The self-awareness, the mastery over your internal state, that can't be taken away.
Even if things take time, there might be periods where it feels like nothing's happening.
For sure. They talk about the void, that transition space. It can feel like you're doing the work, but the outside isn't reflecting it yet. You just have to keep going. Persevere until you push through those limiting beliefs that created the old reality.
And it comes back to worthiness too, doesn't it? What we
Yes.
believe we deserve.
Yeah, that's a powerful thread. The universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving. This whole process is kind of an initiation into understanding that deeper worthiness.
Initiation, I like that.
It involves unlearning thousands of years of programming, the idea that you change matter only with matter, pushing things around in 3D. This is about connecting to a different level, the quantum field, potentiality, and creating from there.
Okay, let's get super practical. Someone's trying this. They catch themselves slipping back into an old thought pattern, an old reaction. What do they do right then, or maybe later that day?
Okay, good question. Mental rehearsal is a key tool mentioned.
Mental rehearsal.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, you reflect. Okay, when did I go unconscious today? When did I react in that old way?
Pinpoint the moment.
Right. Then you actively think, how could I have handled that differently? What would my ideal self have thought, felt, done? And you actually rehearse that new response in your mind.
Play it like a movie.
Exactly. And this isn't just wishful thinking. Doing that starts building new neural pathways. Your brain starts changing from being a record of the past.
To being a map for the future.
You got it. And prioritizing this kind of internal work, that's seen as way more important than, checking emails or the news first thing. You need to create space for it. Disconnect from the outside world to practice inside.
And there are tools to help with the self-regulation part. Calming the system.
Yeah, methods exist to help people learn to self-regulate, to create that brain and heart coherence we talked about. It's learnable.
So with practice, doing this mental rehearsal, using the tools,
Yeah.
you get better at choosing your response, not just reacting.
That's the goal, yeah. You get better at catching yourself, choosing not to give your energy away to the external thing, and consciously maintaining the feeling of your future.
And those moments where you do slip up, but then you catch it and correct, those are actually really important.
The most important, arguably. Those moments of self-correction after maybe falling back, that's where the real learning and strengthening happens. It's not about perfection.
It reminds me of what you sometimes hear from people who've had really profound experiences. They say they wouldn't change their past struggles.
Exactly. Because those challenges, overcoming them, overcoming themselves, that's what led them to that clarity, that connection. They see the value in the whole journey.
So it's not like you reach a goal and you're done. It's ongoing.
Absolutely. Keep evolving, achieve something, great. What's next? What else do you want to experience, become, keep exploring? It's a continuous journey.
Okay, so wrapping this up,
Mm.
It's really clear the core message isn't about finding some magic external fix. It's about understanding and fundamentally shifting our own internal landscape, our thoughts, our feelings.
Moving from being run by unconscious habits to being a conscious creator.
Yeah. So listener, hopefully you've got a clearer picture now of how you can play an active role in shaping your own reality. It starts with awareness of those patterns and then intentionally, deliberately cultivating the feeling of your future right now in the present.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe something to chew on.
Yeah.
Just consider one, maybe small habit, or even just one recurring thought pattern that you became more aware of during our chat today.
Okay, got one in mind.
What's one tiny, really small, actionable thing you could do today to start consciously reshaping just that one little piece?
Just one small step.
I would love it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this sparks continued exploration for you all. Keep growing.